to live in that period of history, and indeed one might find analogous conditions in other parts of the world today, including, sad to say, this country. Yes. Now Engels, because he was running this factory, was a rich guy, and so he helped old Marx out. Marx was a poor guy, and he was an intellectual, and he never had time to bother about making money. And so he was always writing to Engels, his comrade, "Oh, give me more money, I need money for my 3, 4, 5, 6 children." Yeah. Yes, well actually, we'll talk about Marx's family in a minute, but yes. So essentially, Marx and Engels had a very close collaborative relationship. Engels did materially support Marx and Marx's family. Jenny, his wife, had to put up a lot from Marx, and indeed everybody had to put up a lot from Marx. Marx was a really jealous, paranoid, vindictive character. Very difficult person to deal with, indeed. Yes. And he was subject to lots of depressions and rages, and the worst for poor Marx, he had, believe it or not, he had a writing block. Yeah, he wrote a lot, but he had a writing block. When he was attacking somebody, he had no problem writing. But when he was writing the volume 1 of Capital, it took him 20 years. And there's a wonderful passage I must read to you from a letter from Marx as he was finishing volume 1 of Capital. He writes this to Engels. Let me read to you. Here is Marx at his best. Volume 1 of Capital is really a critique of capitalism. It's the other side of Smith. So on page here, he says here, Marx, apart from having a writing block from time to time, was plagued by his usual physical ailments through the winter of 1866 to 1867 when he was finishing volume 1. But even these physical ailments, could no longer thwart his determination to finish volume 1 of Capital. Just imagine, this is like you writing your papers. He wrote the last few pages of volume 1, standing at his desk, when an eruption of boils around the rump made sitting too painful. He suffered from carbuncles, as they call them. Boils on his bum. He says, arsenic, the usual anesthetic, dulls my mind too much, and I need to keep my wits about me as I was writing the last pages of volume 1. Engels' experienced eye immediately spotted certain passages in the text where, quote, where the carbuncles have left their mark. Not as you imagine it. And Marx agreed that the fever in his groin might have given the prose a rather livid hue. At all events, Marx says, I hope that bourgeoisie will remember my carbuncles until their dying day, he cursed. What swine are they? Yes. So Marx suffered from a lot, and so did everybody around him. Actually, if you look at the index on Marx in this book, it's a wonderful book. It's a biography of Marx by a fellow called Francis Wheen, Wheen. But anyway, if you look at the index under Karl Marx's character, here we go. Absent-mindedness, agent of Satan, appetite for dueling, bourgeois patriarch, chess lover, consumerism, defies physical limitations, denounces rivals, diplomatic caution, disorderliness, dominant presence, drinking habits, effect of facial hair on others, fencing technique, foul temper, gregarious loner, hopelessness with money, illegible handwriting, incompetent parenting, insensitivity, intellectual bully, love of cigars, oblivious to immediate surroundings, obsessive perfectionism, oratory skills, passion for pseudonyms, procrastination, self-alienation, self-isolation, snobbishness, storytelling talents, stylistic excess, taste for revelry, teaching qualities, and working habits. Interesting guy. Yes, okay. So good. All right, look. Marx was a difficult guy, and Engels was always the one who was the peacemaker. Actually, sometimes Marx was so engaged in his political tantrums and political struggles that Engels would have to write articles for him. He sometimes wrote articles for the New York Daily Tribune, for which Marx was supposedly one of the sources of his income. Basically, there was a very close collaborative relationship between the two. They were exchanging letters every day. No email in those days, but they might well have, because those letters came to and fro every day, talking about all sorts of things, gossiping about their friends, and vilifying the bourgeoisie. So this was a very lifelong collaborative relationship. And I don't know where I found this quote now. I saw it in my notes from last time. The combination of the wealth of knowledge, that's Marx, and the knowledge of wealth, that was Engels, who knew a lot about capitalism because he was, of course, a businessman. Engels also had a very rich and vital and exciting love life. he lived in sin, as they called it in those days, as Jenny Marx called it, with a woman, an Irish woman, a flaming Irish woman by name of Mary Burns, a working class woman from Manchester. It was a lifelong partnership they had. So Engels didn't have quite the sort of distance from the working class that, interestingly, Marx himself seemed to have had. Marx was very much more the intellectual, engaging with political movements. But Engels was the one who was wandering around the back streets of Manchester. Yes. All right, perhaps I should just read a few passages about their account, because it's so interesting, their lives. Somebody must make a film of this. All right, let me read to you some passages here. Marx and Engels complemented each other perfectly. While Engels couldn't begin to match Marx's erudition, having missed out on university, he had invaluable first-hand knowledge of the machinery of capitalism. But the complete agreement in all theoretical fields that they had didn't extend to their respective habits and styles. One might almost say that the two characters were thesis and antithesis incarnate. Marx wrote in a cramped scroll, with countless deletions and emendations as blotchy testimony to the effort it cost him. Engels' script was neat, businesslike, elegant. Marx was squat and swarthy, a Jew tormented by self-loathing. Engels was tall and fair, with more than a hint of Aryan swagger. Marx lived in chaos and penury. Engels was a briskly efficient worker who held down a full-time job at the family firm while maintaining a formidable output of books, letters and journalism, and often ghostwriting articles for Marx as well. Yet he always found the time to enjoy the comforts of high bourgeois life. Horses in his stables, plenty of wine in his cellar, and mistresses in the bedroom. During the long years when Marx was almost drowning in squalor, fending off creditors and struggling to keep his family alive, the childless Engels pursued the carefree pleasures of a prosperous bachelor. They had no secrets from each other, no taboos. If Marx found a huge boil on his penis, he didn't hesitate to supply a full description. Their voluminous correspondence is a gamey stew of history and gossip, political economy and schoolboy smut, high ideals and low intimacies. Yes, and so on. Engels served Marx as a kind of substitute mother, sending him pocket money, fussing over his health and continually reminding him not to neglect his studies. Anyway, an interesting relationship they have. Right. And no, let me just give you one more description, actually. This is how, I did say that Marx had a more distant relationship from the working class, but in fact, if you actually read accounts of his life, it sounds like a very working class life. Listen to the account here of what it's like to enter Marx's home. Marx's home, 169. His living conditions, Marx, might have been expressly designed to keep him from lapsing into contentment. The furniture and fittings in the two-room apartment were all broken, tattered or torn, and with a half-inch of dust over everything. Isn't that like your room, Conrad? In the middle of the front living room overlooking Dean Street was a big table covered with an oilcloth on which lay Marx's manuscripts, books and newspapers, as well as the children's toys, rags and scraps from his wife's sewing basket, several cups with broken rims, knives, forks, lamps, an ink pot and tumblers, as well as Dutch clay pipes and a thick veneer of tobacco ash. Even finding somewhere to sit was fraught with peril. Here is a chair with only 3 legs. On another chair the children have been playing at cooking. This chair happens to have 4 legs, a guest reported. This is the one which is offered to the visitor. But the children's cooking has not been wiped away, and if you sit down you risk a pair of trousers. One of the few Prussian police spies who gained admission to this smoke-filled cavern was shot by Marx's chaotic habits. Quote from the German police spy: "He leads the existence of a real bohemian intellectual. Washing, grooming and changing his linen are things he does rarely. And he likes to get drunk. Though he is often idle for days on end, he will work day and night with tireless endurance when he has a great deal of work to do. He has no fixed times for going to sleep and waking up. He often stays up all night and then lies down, fully clothed on the sofa at midday, and sleeps till evening, untroubled by the comings and goings of the whole world." Sounds like a Berkeley undergraduate, yes. Marx's reluctance to go to bed seems eminently reasonable, since his whole menage, including the housekeeper, Helene Letchen Demuth, who, by the way, he had a child, had to sleep in one small room at the back of the building. How Carl and Jenny ever found time or privacy for procreation remains a mystery. One assumes that they seized their chances while Letchen was out taking the children for a walk. That is the guy you're going to be reading about for the next 4 or 5 weeks, together with Engels. Look, okay, that's enough. You can see I enjoy reading about him. Marx and Engels, that was their life. Marx and Engels were influenced by 2 revolutions, and they were which? French and the Industrial. The French Revolution was a political revolution. And we've talked a little bit about it already. The French Revolution introduced the ideas of trying to enact a new form of political regime that would give rights to individuals. Today we might call it a form of democracy. French Revolution. In Germany, there had been no such political revolution that freed individuals from feudal hierarchies. And so the Germans, like Hegel, but particularly like Marx, and Engels were obsessed with why there was no successful revolution in Germany, like the French Revolution. And the other revolution is, of course, the Industrial Revolution, which takes place, first and foremost, where? In England, precisely where Marx is situated after 1849. The Industrial Revolution is what? What is the Industrial Revolution? How would you explain, how would you understand the Industrial Revolution? What is the Industrial Revolution? Hands up, hands up, hands up. Come on, you must have an idea what the Industrial Revolution is. Conrad.
I would just take a shot in the dark and say that the Industrial Revolution was the rise of machinery and basically a lot of machines that make productivity more, greater productivity versus more.
Good. What else? Yes. Did you have your hand up?
I was going to say the same thing.
You were going to say the same thing? You are? Danielle.
Yeah. The widespread movement of people from rural areas to urban areas. The rise of urbanization.
Very good. We got machines and urbanization. Sienna?
I was going to say the urbanization.
Josephine?
I was thinking back. They changed from a predominantly agricultural economy to industrial.
You can't say Industrial Revolution, use the word industrial again. Machinery, all right, from agriculture to machinery to urbanization, that's what we got. What is the unit? What's happening? Wait, yes, Kristen.
We moved production from familial units or units of the family out of the family to artificially created homes.
Which are called? Factories, yes, indeed. So we got factory production using machines, and employing who? What are they called? Workers. And how do we find workers? They are paid by wages, yes. So we got workers in wages rather than serfs or agricultural peasants. Yes, you got in cities, factories, employing workers to work with machinery. Yes, you were going to say something?
Oh no, I was going to say the rise of wage labor.
Okay, the rise of wage labor. That's the Industrial Revolution. It is in fact the transformation of the economy, the transformation of the way we produce things, the movement to the creation of factories in cities, and cities where there are urban concentrations of workers. That's why we get urbanization, concentration of people in cities who become the wage laborers who are employed in the factories. That's the Industrial Revolution. Okay, so what this means is, here is M&E. Now, the French Revolution influenced Marx and Engels. They were interested in some sort of political democratization. The Industrial Revolution influenced Marx and Engels because they saw the emergence of what we will call the working class. But also Marx and Engels were influenced by the writings of a fellow called Hegel, who was the philosopher who interpreted the French Revolution, and influenced by economists such as Smith, who interpreted the Industrial Revolution. Marx and Engels, in fact, were engaged in a dialogue with Smith on the one side, a critical dialogue against Smith in the end, critical dialogue against Smith on the one side for Smith's interpretation of Industrial Revolution, and on the other side, which we'll talk about next time, a critical dialogue with Hegel, who's had an interpretation of the French Revolution. That is the story, and we are going to first talk about today, in what is left, we have 18 minutes left, to talk about Marx and Engels' relationship to Smith, and next time, the German ideology will be Marx and Engels' relationship to Hegel and the Hegelians, the philosophers who followed in the footsteps of Hegel. Okay, so we're going to start then with Smith. Finally, we're getting to the texts, Simeon, that I put on the board some time ago, right? So, very good. So now we are there. What is Marx and Engels' relationship to Smith? How did Marx and Engels view the writings of Smith? View the theory of, embodied in the Wealth of Nations. Yes. Well, the first, let's say just Marx for now, because most of these texts we read for today are by Marx. Not all of them, but 3 of the 4. No, that's true. Only 2 of them. Anyway, the first 2. So Marx, what did Marx think about universal opulence? The idea that the division of labor gives rise to universal opulence. It's in the text. Everybody got their tucker? Let me see those tuckers! Very good, Sienna. I'm delighted that you were first up there. Yes, let's see those tuckers. Your arms can't be tired yet. Yes, let me see those tuckers. Come on, let's have a look at those tuckers. Ah, yes, tucker. Ah, I found somebody without a tucker. Where is your tucker?
Not here.
Not here. Yeah, I can see that. Where is it though? At home. Why is it at home and not here? You're foolish. No, that is not a sociological explanation. No, there must be a rational reason why you left it. It may be subconscious, but there must be a reason why you left tucker behind, no?
I'll think about it.
You'll think about it. Perhaps we'll get you to write a Marxist, a Smithian essay. What would Smith think about why you left tucker behind? Well, Smith doesn't like tucker. Okay, fine. Okay, look, please bring your tuckers. Bring your tuckers. How much does tucker cost these days?